Hi, today I want to look at the output gap. Now the output gap is very important, particularly in the AS paper 2, because it concerns things like unemployment, inflation and the Monetary Policy Committee. First of all, have a look at the axes here. The output axis up the vertical shows you the total amount of GDP. It's not the percentage change in GDP, but the total amount of GDP. Along the bottom, of course, we have the time axis, and as time goes on, if you look at the red line, the actual GDP, that's the actual performance of the economy, you'll see that from time to time we get a fall in the total amount of GDP into recession, and then a recovery phase where you get a positive increase in GDP up to a boom, and then falling off again, like we are today, where you've got actual GDP below potential GDP. Now, what is potential GDP? Well, this blue line indicates the normal rate of growth of the UK economy. It's around about 2.5% normally. And as you can see, the actual growth rates drop below potential. That's when we're off the production possibility frontier, and they can actually exceed the potential. When we get growth rates of 3.5%, 4%, then we've got what we call a positive output gap, where you've got actual GDP greater than potential GDP. Now, it's important to note that there are certain outcomes we associate with the negative output gap. For example, unemployment. As recession deepens, unemployment grows. When we come out of recession and we go into a situation where actual GDP is greater than potential GDP, there is a danger then of inflation. And this was where the Monetary Policy Committee are going to be most concerned. They're going to be sitting there every month with their projections of the output gap, trying to raise interest rates to prevent the economy overheating, to try and bring the red line closer to the potential GDP line. Way of showing GDP in a different way. This time you've got the percentage of GDP, the change in GDP up the side, but also represented as a zero figure. Now, zero figure means that, in fact, the economy is growing at normal rate. So if that was the UK economy, it would be around about 2.5%. What you've got then, if the economy goes above that, the actual, which is the zigzag line, goes above the potential, the zero line of the economy, then there is a positive output gap followed by a negative output gap across some years. And here you can see there was the recession of the late 70s, early 80s, the boom of the 90s, and there we see us going down into recession during this recent period, returning to a normal level of growth at naught, which would be the normal potential growth rate for the economy.